officially episode number 4 of the Creative Outlet Podcast, and here I am. It is I, your host, Brandon Pudwill, for this COP, this COP. The date that I am recording this is March 12th, 2020. It is a Thursday. I am going to be giving us our introduction here. And as always, we'll be doing 4 topics today. I'm thinking this is going to be a bit of a longer show because I have 2 particularly long topics, and I have 37 pages of notes. So I am, I'm just ready to get into what we are doing here. So, how do I want to start? What do I want to talk about in this intro? I guess I should give some reflections from episode 3. That episode, at least as of the date I'm recording this, is yet to have any segments edited yet, but that's because I've been particularly busy on other projects, and that's something that I want to work on in the next week. And I'll explain why next week is important as I go on here in this intro. And, I wish it could have been longer, I guess, looking back on episode 3, because it was like an hour and 10-ish minutes, and I don't know why each episode has been getting shorter so far, but it seemed like for the last 4 topics that I covered, being Google Stadia, scalping, some of the psychology of collecting, and of course, mi español, I don't know, I guess I just didn't have as much prepared for them as I thought when I was writing them, and not to mention, I've been under a bit of a time crunch, because I spend a lot of time on assignments and other things that I need to do that, I don't know, maybe I just didn't want to spend as much time on that podcast as I could have, which is unfortunate, but hopefully that's made up today. I doubt we'll get to 2 hours. If I do, oh boy, that'll be something, but let's just get through each segment here first. And I guess looking now that I've done a whole trilogy of episodes, and now I'm getting into the quadrilogy, I wish I could have covered more news in that episode, but obviously the major problem with that is it took so long to come out, and that's obviously been a problem with a bunch of these is I just don't have the time to do the episodes timely enough for a news topic, although I'm going to try today. I'm going to release something that, even though it's a little bit of old news, it's still going to be relatively relevant. Plus, it's a bit more of an opinion type piece than it is a news piece, but I am going to go over a bunch of information. And the good thing is, pretty soon here, it's already mid-March, it'll be June, it'll be summer, I'll have all the time in the world to work on this. So, speaking of which, I guess I should discuss how things are going to be going as I get closer to the end of this semester. But before I get into summer, I'd actually like to give an update on the present, because there's a bunch of new information that's come out. So I'm sure, if you're watching this in the present, that is, March of 2020, you know that there's a certain terrible... people are thinking of it as a pandemic. I don't know if it's going to be quite that bad. I'm not fully convinced. But there's a certain terrible CV going around, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to mention it for fear that Who knows what could happen to this if I just happen to mention the name of the condition in a random couple of seconds. And so because of that, for my university, spring break was supposed to be between March 14th, 2020, which is a Saturday, until March 22nd, which is the following Sunday, with classes reconvening that Monday. Let me just make sure I have that date absolutely right, that it would be a Monday. We're supposed to reconvene on March 23rd, but the break has not been extended, but all classwork has been moved online until April 10th. And in line with that, any students in the university residence halls are to return their keys and vacate the premises, with a few specific exceptions, until April 10th. So, I haven't exactly decided what I want to do with regards to this podcast until that date, because it would be really great to be able to continue this, but I already am going to have to bring back a whole bunch with like a tote of I want to bring home my bedding and get that washed, and I want to bring home my clothes, because, it's better to get things clean for free like that than it is to spend the $2.50 it costs to do laundry here. Seriously, if anybody from a college is listening to this that has any power over residence life, you need to do things to make it more appealing for students to want to stay in the residence halls, unless you make it mandatory for them to stay there, which is a whole separate can of stupid worms. But one of the things you can do to make students want to go to the university housing is to make costs like that not exist, or at least be significantly less than $2.50. But that's beside the point. The point is, I'm going to have to go home, and I don't quite know if I will bring my microphone and the camera or not yet. Ideally, I will. But I'll see if I even have time to work on these aside from editing and preparing the next episode until I'm back here. And obviously that's quite unfortunate. But my hope is to bring along the microphone and bring along the camera, because those would just be nice things to have in case I do happen to have the time to record an episode while I'm at home. But we'll see what happens. Short of any additional extension to it, I figure I'll be back on track to start recording by then once again. Of course, it doesn't matter much anyway, because then 3 weeks after that, I'm going back home again because the semester will be over. And with that, I suppose it would be best, since I will be finished at the beginning of May, which is coming up right after that, to give a discussion about what is going to be happening between mid-May and August. So for starters, I should be back to recording in the location I was in episode 1, back home. Of course, that comes with the major flaw that I will have to get up in order to hit the record button, but maybe I will be able to figure out a way around that. Potentially getting a it's like I've seen people use like a clicker of some kind. That would be good. But really, the main problem with summer isn't going to be recording and writing, because, like I said, I'm gonna have all the time in the world to do that. Anytime I'm not working or doing something to like take the edge off is gonna probably be spent on this. The problem, though, is going to be editing. So as I've been here in college, I can just go to the library, grab a laptop with Adobe Premiere on it, and edit. And that's how I'm able to include the nice looking text, and how I have things like the logo at the beginning and the end. because my personal computer is a video potato in that it cannot likely support Premiere, and I don't exactly have any computers around at home that I can just use that have that kind of power and have Premiere on it. So, in preparation for that, that's why the segments from episode 3 have yet to been edited, and why I'm recording this right now, because I want to try to edit this episode using the tools that I have available to me. And in this case, I was looking around. I was like, what are some, I looked at my computer specs, because you can just do that on Windows, and I was looking for software that should be able to run on my computer that is ideally free and open source, because college kids like me are poor in the sense that we don't have the money to purchase editing software necessarily. And so currently I'm looking at using the VSDC free video editor. I have yet to use it. If there are any flaws with it, of course I'll find out when I edit it again, or when I edit using that software. Really the only thing that I'm concerned about looking at it is with the text. Like, the fades for visuals and audio, that's a standard feature on any editing software, so I don't expect them to work any differently. Those will be fine. It's all the text, because I use a particular font. I use there's one letter. I want to make sure I say it right. I don't know if it's Eris or Arius ITC Light font, which is available in the, I believe the university Windows computers have the 2018 Adobe Premiere on it. So yeah, it looks like on here it is Eris, like eras, multiple eras ITC. So ideally I should be able to, that would be on the software. If it's not, I'm going to have to figure that out, because I would like to continue using that font. I'm not ready to do a font rebranding for this show. Worst case scenario, I figure I have to use a different font in the middle of the episodes, and then because I want to keep the simple black background with the white logo at just the white text at the start, because even if it is simple, I feel like it looks just sophisticated enough to be like a podcasty logo. But aside from text, making episodes in every other respect should be much, much easier in the summer. And that's a big plus. And in fact, when it comes to looking at how the summer is going to work for this show, the plan for me is to have everything split up over 2 weeks. So like 1 week is an editing week, and then the other week will be a recording week. I should have said that in the opposite order. 1 week is recording week, the following week is editing week, and then going back and forth and back and forth. But that's for entirely separate family-related reasons that I don't really want to discuss here. But that it at least has that benefit that I should be able to have that consistent recording and editing schedule, short of me getting super duper lazy, which I don't plan on having happen, but we'll see how work and other things end up for me. Otherwise, that's about all I have to say in this intro. I'd actually like to preview the topics for this episode, because that just makes sense. I'm going to be looking at finally doing I know I say finally, and it's only episode 4. The Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. Not quite rant, but a little bit more than diatribe. I'm just going to have a talk about it, because there's a little bit of news that makes it relevant once again to me, so I figured now is the best time than any to discuss it. The thing that I referenced earlier in here, in this intro, about something that's kind of timely, is we're going to be talking about the Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct, because I have some opinions on it, including some opinions that I don't know if everyone's going to like. But if I end up being wrong, and I think other things by the time I get the game, trust me, I will update my opinions, even if that means I have to eat crow. It is my favorite bird to eat. I say semi-facetiously, because it is simply a figure of speech, and that's going to be likely the longest segment on here. The third thing we will be talking about, if I could get past the notes I have for this segment. Oh, yes. Speaking of university, it's not going to be a problem for a while, but I have some problems here with the internet and gaming that I would like to discuss, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who is having problems trying to play video games online at their university. But I just kind of wanted to describe what's happening for me. And then finally, my requisite getting out of gaming topic, I've decided to do a retrospective on some of my favorite animation. I would like to do a retrospective on my time with the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, because that has been one of my favorite forms of media during my childhood and even into today. So with that all said, I am ready to get going into some topics. This is going to be a great creative outlet podcast.